Before we proceed ahead, I'd like to have your feedback on some of the questions that I've compiled. So you can scan the code, use the passcode to join 1010, and you are completely anonymous, so please feel free to answer whatever and however you want. So it looks like 88% of you use GPT, and there are folks who do not use any. That's also very good and interesting. Let's see. What do you use Gen AI for? I would encourage all of you to participate because that way you'll learn. Okay. Schoolwork, get information quickly. That's great. For ideas for projects to check my work, it's good. Real life situations that I have questions about, that's great. So there are people who use it for work, for getting answers, for problem solving, general information. When I want to understand something without the answer just given to me, okay. Explanation of topics, pitching hypotheticals, okay. That's really good use of doing that. How many of you use it for submitting your homeworks? I'm not sure whether you have been given any such task before, but just respond with yes or no, and that no will quickly turn into yes very soon. I know that. Yes. Okay. All right. So I'm moving forward with the next one. Okay. That's cool. So have you ever used Gen for computer programming? Yes. Good. That's interesting. I like those 2%. Well, that's good that you are using it for programming. And my next question would be, does Gen AI always complete the task correctly? Let's keep it in a way that when you ask it to do something, whether it completes it correctly in one shot without periodically interacting with it. So never 2%, yes 2%. It implies that you are constructing your instruction. I mean, putting your instruction in a very like engineered way, a correct way, so that's why you get the response. 2% of you get the response correctly in the first one shot, and never means like you may not be giving the right instructions, whatever. So for example, most of you said that no, it doesn't give. So how would you identify whether you give a task to AI related to programming, for example? How would you identify that whether you got the correct response or not? Come on, yeah.
To check for yourself.
How do we check ourselves?
Implementing
So for example, I gave a task to run something 100 times, for example. How do I check it?
You take whatever the AI gave you and run it.
And run it and see whether it is running correctly. So this is a very simple thing to do, okay? But it requires you to understand like how to check it and what it has written, right? Saying something, yeah.
Wouldn't you also want to know if it's efficient? Like if you're running something 100 times, what if the AI just spits it out 100 times instead of using like a loop?
Yeah, so what I'm trying to employ here is you need to be qualified enough to understand what it is doing, okay? So it's not like you're doing vibe coding. It's just giving an instruction. It's just like an HR manager giving an instruction to electrical engineer to create a machine. An HR manager himself would be able to identify or would not be able to verify whether the machine created is the correct one or not. Okay. So again, your thing, whether it's efficient or not, it's dive deep into the actual technicalities, rather than only depending on the output, whether it's generating the correct output. So I would give you an example of like this. Assuming that you are a manager and you are directing your subordinate to do something. By the way, this image itself is AI generated, where I asked it to generate an image of a manager directing its subordinate to fix something using a screwdriver. And you can see that even the image itself, if I zoom it a bit, you can see that the screwdriver itself is not correctly generated here, and the person is pointing in another direction, and the subordinate is looking into another direction. So by looking at this picture, you can easily identify that this image is not correctly generated. But in terms of like a program, a software program, how would you identify whether the output generated by AI is the correct one or not? You have to be qualified enough to understand whether the code generated is correct, whether it is efficient, as you said, and whether it's functioning properly. So it could be a wrong output, and it could lead to catastrophic consequences. Okay, I will be talking about these consequences soon. So you need to understand how will you check, and you need to be qualified enough to debug and verify that code. Okay. So what instructions to give? That is one important thing. How to give the instructions? That is another important thing you should know. And the third one is you should be qualified to identify whether it is functioning properly or not. And in that way only you can distinguish yourself from rest of the world. Being in a computer science class, being a computer scientist, or being an engineer, or whatever your motivation is to take this class, you should be able to distinguish yourself from my, for example, 11 years old, my son, who can also give an instruction to GPT to create a front interface of any website. And it could do that, right? But he may not be efficient enough to identify whether it is the correct way of doing it or not. Okay? So being in a computer science class, engineering major, whatever you are, so you should be able to distinguish yourself clearly with the rest of the other people, that you can not only use generative AI effectively, but you are also capable of writing algorithms to develop such generative AI platforms. Okay, this is the main purpose of this course. All right, so what are the catastrophic consequences? So wrong output can lead to something when you're not able to identify if it is functioning correctly or not. So this is the latest scam you might have already heard of. There's a dating app, T-Suffers, data leak, where 79,000 of the images were exposed to other people. And you can see that it turned out that it was generated with a vibe coding, or AI generated code was used. Okay, so even if you're using computer, we need to be efficient enough to use it wisely, properly. Okay, it doesn't mean that we should stop using it. We should use it to enhance our productivity. Okay, and this is what we are going to do in this course.